Discipline is no longer a habit. It's my lifestyle. You know what the most dangerous lie you've ever told yourself is? I'll start being disciplined tomorrow. Came again, and you watched it leave again. Here's what nobody is saying out loud. Discipline didn't fail you. You were just never taught what discipline actually is. You were handed a version of it that was designed to break. A version built on willpower alone, on rigid routines, on guilt every time. You slipped. And of course that version collapsed because anything built on guilt eventually crumbles under the weight of being human. But there's another kind of discipline, one that doesn't feel like punishment, one that doesn't require you to white-knuckle your way through every single morning, one that isn't something you do, it's something you become. That's what we're talking about today. And if you're ready to stop fighting yourself and finally start living differently, stay with me. Let me ask you something honest. When you think about discipline, what do you feel? For most people, it's not excitement. It's not even neutral. It's this heavy, familiar shame, because you've tried. You've downloaded the apps, set the alarms, made the vision boards, written the journals. You've started over so many times that starting over itself feels exhausting. And the worst part, you don't even trust yourself anymore. There's this quiet voice that lives somewhere in your chest and it whispers you always quit. You know you're going to quit this too. And you hate that voice. But somewhere deep down, you've started to believe it. That's where most people are right now. Stuck between who they want to be and who they keep proving themselves to be. Caught in this painful loop of motivation, momentum, and then collapse. But here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. That loop isn't a character flaw. It's a design flaw. You were running the wrong system. And today we're going to rebuild it from the inside out. The moment you realize willpower was never the point, every conversation about discipline starts in the wrong place. It starts with willpower, how to get more of it, how to protect it, how to use it before it runs out by noon. But here's the psychological truth that changed everything for me. Willpower is a finite resource, and it was never designed to carry the weight we put on it. Scientists call it ego depletion. Every decision you make throughout the day, from what to eat for breakfast to whether to check your phone, pulls from the same limited pool of mental energy. By the time evening hits, that pool is almost empty, which is exactly why you keep breaking your commitments at night. You're not weak. You're depleted. The people who appear to have extraordinary discipline, they aren't using more willpower than you. They've built systems that require almost no willpower at all. Their environment makes the right choice the easy choice. Their identity makes the right choice the obvious choice. So stop asking yourself, how do I get more willpower? And start asking, how do I design a life where I barely need it? That shift in question changes everything. Identity comes before action. Always hear something. Most productivity advice gets completely backward. You don't build discipline by doing things repeatedly until they become automatic. You build discipline by deciding at the deepest level who you are and then letting your actions flow from that identity. There's a massive difference between saying I'm trying to work out every day and saying I'm someone who takes care of their body. One is a goal. The other is a self-concept. And your brain will always work harder to protect your self-concept than to reach a goal. Think about it. When you see yourself as a runner, you run in the rain because that's what runners do. When you see yourself as a writer, you write even when the words feel stiff and ugly, because writers write through the ugly too. The behavior follows the belief. So before you set another goal, before you build another schedule, ask yourself the most important question you'll ever ask. Who am I becoming? Not what do I want? Not what do I wish I had done? Who am I right now in the process of becoming? Write that down. Live from that answer. Watch how different everything feels. The invisible architecture of your daily life, your environment, is either working for you without your permission. The research is overwhelming on this. People who keep fruit on their kitchen counter weigh less than people who keep chips. Students who study in the same place every day retain more than students who switch locations. People who sleep with their phone in another room, not just face down, but in another room, report better sleep quality and higher morning productivity. None of this requires willpower. It requires architecture. Think of your daily environment like a current in the ocean. If you're swimming against it, you exhaust yourself. If you align with it, it carries you. Discipline as a lifestyle means engineering the current, not fighting it. So look around you right now. Where are the points of friction that are quietly killing your momentum? Your gym bag, is it by the door or buried in the closet? Your phone, is it the first thing you reach for in the morning? Your workspace, does it signal focus or does it signal chaos?
You don't need to overhaul your entire life in a weekend.
Just pick one thing. Remove one obstacle. Add one cue that pulls you toward who you want to be. Do that consistently, and you'll be stunned by how much easier discipline becomes when your environment is finally on your side. Why you keep quitting and it's not what you think, let me tell you something that might sting a little. The reason you quit isn't laziness. It isn't lack of desire. It isn't even fear of failure. Because you haven't yet learned to tolerate the discomfort of the middle. The beginning of anything new feels electric. There's novelty, there's hope, there's that intoxicating sense of possibility. The end, when the results are visible, feels incredible too. But the middle is where nothing seems to be happening. You're doing the work and not seeing the reward. You're showing up and feeling invisible. You're trusting a process that hasn't paid off yet. Psychologists call this the
Valley of disappointment.
It's the gap between where you start and where you want to be. And it's the exact place where most people turn around and go home. But here's the truth that lives on the other side of that valley. Consistency is the compound interest of personal growth. The results you can't see today are quietly accumulating. The neural pathways you're strengthening, the self-trust you're building, the identity you're constructing, it's all happening beneath the surface, invisible, but real. People who live disciplined lives didn't escape the valley. They just decided to keep walking through it. And eventually, always eventually, they walked out the other side. The relationship between self-compassion and sustained discipline, this might be the most counterintuitive thing I'll say today. So I need you to really sit with it. Self-compassion is not the enemy of discipline. It is the foundation of it. The old story we were told is this: be hard on yourself when you fail, and the pain will motivate you to do better next time. Shame yourself into shape. Criticize yourself into consistency. But research, serious, repeated peer-reviewed research shows the exact opposite. Dr. Kristen Neff at the University of Texas found that people who practice self-compassion after failure are more likely to try again, less likely to procrastinate, and more resilient in the long run than people who engage in harsh self-criticism. Why? Because shame shuts people down. It activates the threat response in your brain, which narrows your thinking and pulls you toward avoidance. Compassion, on the other hand, activates the caregiving system, the same system that motivates a loving parent to get up at 2 a.m. for a sick child. It says, this matters. You matter. Let's try again. So the next time you miss a workout, break your diet, lose your temper, or fall off your routine, don't spiral. Don't perform punishment. Say to yourself genuinely, that happened. I'm human. Need right now, and how do I take one small step forward? That's not softness. That's the kind of fierce, patient love that actually builds a life. The secret language of small wins, nobody talks about this enough, but I believe it might be the most practical insight in this entire conversation. Small wins are not consolation prizes. They are the engine of lasting change. Here's what happens neurologically when you complete a small, meaningful task. Your brain releases a tiny pulse of dopamine negative, the same chemical associated with reward and motivation. But more importantly, it records the experience as evidence. Evidence that you are capable, evidence that you follow through, evidence that you can be trusted. And that evidence accumulates. Every small promise you keep to yourself: drinking the water, making the bed, sending the email, taking the walk, is a vote cast for the identity of someone who does what they say they'll do. This is why starting small is not a compromise. It's a strategy. It's not settling for less. It's building the neurological infrastructure that makes bigger, harder things possible later. So if you've been waiting until you feel ready to make a dramatic change, stop waiting. Start embarrassingly small. So small it feels almost silly. Make that tiny promise to yourself today and keep it, and do it again tomorrow. Because the person who keeps small promises becomes the person who can keep big ones. What living disciplined actually looks like on a hard day, I need to be real with you for a second, because I don't want to give you a highlight reel and call it truth. Living a disciplined life does not mean every morning looks like a motivational montage. Doesn't mean you always feel like a warrior. There will be days, real, heavy human days, when you wake up exhausted and everything inside you says, not today. And on those days, discipline doesn't look heroic. It looks like the smallest possible version of showing up. On those days, discipline looks like not the full workout, but 10 minutes of movement. Not the perfect meal, but something nourishing instead of nothing. Not the 2-hour deep work session, but 30 minutes of focused effort. Not the polished version of yourself, just the present version. This is the difference between someone who is building a lifestyle and someone who is chasing perfection. Perfection requires ideal conditions. A lifestyle works in all conditions. It bends, it scales, it adapts, but it never fully breaks. The goal is not to have a perfect record. The goal is to never let a hard day become a hard week. To never let one slip become a full surrender. To always, always find the floor beneath you and stand back up. That's what sustainable discipline looks like. Not perfect. Protecting your inner world from the noise that steals focus, we need to talk about something that is quietly destroying more focus and discipline than almost anything else in the modern world. The constant curated noise of other people's highlight reels. Every time you open your phone and scroll through someone else's transformation, someone else's morning routine, someone else's 6-figure business or perfect body, your brain does something sneaky. It compares. And comparison doesn't compare your full life to their full life. It compares your insides to their outsides, your mess to their polish, your struggle to their success. And that comparison creates this suffocating feeling that you're already behind, that there's no point starting because you'll never catch up. That discipline is for people who have it all figured out, not for someone like you. still figuring things out at 2 in the afternoon in yesterday's clothes. Protecting your inner world means being ruthless, genuinely ruthless about what you let in. It means curating your inputs with the same care you give your outputs. It means choosing deliberately what voices get access to your attention, not because you're running from reality, but because your focus is the most valuable real estate you own and other people's content is constantly bidding for it without paying rent. Guard it. Protect it. What you consistently consume quietly becomes what you believe is possible, and that belief shapes everything. The role of rest in a disciplined life here is a lie that cost me years. Rest is what you earn after the work. Until then, keep pushing. And I pushed until I didn't want to push anymore. Until even the things I love started to feel like obligations. Burnout doesn't feel dramatic, by the way. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives as a slow gray numbness, a loss of color in things that used to light you up. A constant low-grade exhaustion that sleep doesn't seem to fix. And the bitter irony. Pushing through that state makes everything worse. Your decision-making deteriorates. Your creativity flatlines. Your patience disappears. You become a less effective, less present, less compassionate version of yourself, and then you hate yourself for it, which drains you further. Rest is not a reward for discipline. Rest is discipline. Strategic, intentional rest is one of the highest leverage things you can do for your long-term performance and well-being. Elite athletes have this figured out. They treat recovery as training. They understand that the adaptation, the growth doesn't happen during the work. It happens during the rest that follows. So if you're exhausted, right. Now I want you to hear this. Resting on purpose is not giving up. It is a radical, courageous act of trusting the process. It is saying, I am building something that lasts, and I will not sacrifice it on the altar of short-term hustle. Sleep deeply. Play fully, breathe without a timer. Come back stronger. The day discipline stops feeling like discipline, I want to tell you about a moment that happens to every person who commits to this lifestyle long enough. One day, and you won't see it. Coming, you wake up and you realize something quietly extraordinary. The things that used to require effort no longer do. The morning routine that used to feel like climbing a mountain now just feels like morning. The workout you used to dread now just feels like something you do. The food choices that used to feel like sacrifice now just feel like how you eat. This is not because you became superhuman. It's because you crossed a threshold. The behavior became part of your identity. Brain, which is brilliantly lazy, stopped fighting something it now accepts as simply who you are. Neuroscientists call this automaticity. Habits, once deeply embedded, require almost no conscious processing. They run in the background like an operating system you never see but always rely on. This is what I mean when I say discipline becomes a lifestyle. Not that it becomes effortless in the sense of requiring nothing, but that it becomes natural as breathing, as natural as speaking your first language, something you do without deciding to do it because it's simply the expression of who you've become. You will get there. I promise you, if you keep going, you will get there. I want to leave you with something before you go. The version of you that you keep imagining, the one who wakes up early, moves their body, creates something meaningful, shows up for the people they love, and ends the day feeling like they lived it, that person is not a fantasy. That person is not reserved for someone with a perfect childhood, more time, fewer problems, or better circumstances. That person is you with a different set of daily decisions made consistently, compassionately, and for long enough that they stop feeling like decisions at all. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become more yourself, the truest, most committed version of who you already are at your best moments. The morning you woke up early and felt proud of it, that's you. Chose the harder, better thing even when no one was watching. That's you. The moment you got up after falling, that's you. That person shows up in you more than you give yourself credit for. Now go build a life worthy of them. And if something in this conversation moved you, if it shifted even one small thing in how you see yourself, I want you to subscribe. Not because numbers matter, but because this channel exists for people like you. People who are serious about building a life from the inside out, who are done with surface level advice, who are ready to do the real deep human work. Hit that subscribe button and come back, because this conversation is just getting started.